Okay, so the next thing that we need to set up before we get to the grading part is to basically set up our weighted columns. Step 6 in our roadmap. So we want to add a weighted column. On page 27 in your handouts, you will see the steps on how to do this. And very importantly is the external grade. So what will happen is by default when we create your courses and that total column is created, that is set as your external grade. What the external grade means is that it shows a green tick in front of that column. That's a column that you can try to hide it, but the system will overwrite your instruction. And it will use that mark to reflect it in various places for the student on ClickUp, which you cannot switch off. Okay? So let me show you where it will display. The first part is on if you create a module page. So in this example, we called it Stay on Track. This is an example of what a module page can look like. On that page, you can add a report card. So the student will be able to see for the 4 modules that I am enrolled for this semester, these are my 4 marks that I've earned up to date. But the information that reflects there is the external grade. So if you use that total column, then it actually is meaningless because there's no weightings applied to that total, right? So if we do that, we have to then go and set up a proper column that has got the necessary weightings and make that our external grade, because then we are communicating valuable information for the students. Another place where the external grade is reflected is on the notifications dashboard. So when the students log into ClickUp, they can see their courses on the My ClickUp tab, or they can click on the notifications dashboard and there they get a summary of all the courses that they are enrolled for. So it's everything, and the mark, the external grade for those courses. So that's the second place. The third place, if the student click on their name there at the top of the screen, this menu will appear and they can click on the My Grades available there. When they click on that, it will give them again a summary of the marks. So it takes from each one of the courses and just display the mark there. So if they click on it, they will see which course it belongs to, and then also the breakdown of how it calculated that specific mark. So those are the places where it displays and you can't hide them. And can you see these that has got funny totals? Those are the ones that you need to investigate, because you know this is not useful information. Most probably it's not. You have to investigate what's happening there. So let's create that grade weighted total before we do this revision part. So on page 27 in your handouts, you have the steps available there. There's also a step sheet available on page 28 on how to create a weighted column if you want to take further notes. So when you go to the full grade center, go to create calculated column. You have weighted column there. So I can call this my semester test or semester mark rather, or you can call it a progress mark or whatever you want to call that mark. Again, we skip the second grade center name, don't add anything there. And if you want to, it's a good idea to, in this description, put the weightings for each one of your columns, so that you know and someone else in the course can see how are you actually going to do this calculation. I'm just going to use the percentage for now, but you can decide what you want to include there. Percentage for me in this case work best. Why? Because all your things are in any case going to work out towards a final percentage that you want to make visible to the students. So we now can select some of these columns. So if I scroll down, I just want to use those that I've worked with this morning. So I can use my Estelle column. You can use the Shift and the Control keys on your keyboard to jump between columns. So I can use the Control one, Presentation. I don't think that one has got marks. So let's use the class test. And there's a group assignment which I'm going to give marks for just now. And there's an individual assignment. Once you selected them, there's very valuable information just below that box. So what you will see is it will tell you for the individual assignment, it counts towards 100 points. The group assignment counts towards 100 points. Then the class test is out of 25, and the Estelle column that I added is out of 20. So that gives you a good idea of the points that you are going to work with now. So then you will see a small little arrow on the right-hand side. If you click on that, you will now be able to add the percentages. And this will then again correlate with that assignment plan or assessment plan that you have in your study guide. Remember, that study guide is like a contract that you have with the students. I had to assist a lecturer the other day, and on that assessment part, it just mentioned 25% of tests. It didn't indicate how many, and the percentages or 5 of the 10 will count or anything like that. So it's extremely vague, and that makes it very difficult for the students also to plan their time, right, and to know what to expect for your course. So there you can indicate then your percentages. So let's do so. 10%. 20, 10%, this class test was 25, and it must calculate up to 100, right? So I'm now only on 45%. So I must decide whether I want to make this one now 55%, so that it ends up being 100. Otherwise it will not allow you to save. Then we have this below your percentages, we have this running total. So you can decide whether you want to include it as a running total, and what that will mean is it will calculate for the students as they continue to earn marks how much they have now got in their bag for their semester mark. So you can use that as a good motivator to help your students and motivate them to study a bit harder for the next test, or to do better preparation for the next practical, or whatever the case may be, right? Because they can see what's my mark looking like up to date. And then we have the ones that you are used to now by now. I'm just going to add the yes and submit. I just want to mention, at the moment, the policy with regards to the grade center is that you only upload grades up until semester mark points, because we don't have that integration yet. So your exam mark and the final mark, that will still sit on your laptop, okay, in an Excel spreadsheet, and you will go through that whole process of getting it back into the PeopleSoft system, right? Until we have the integration, and then that might change, right? But for now, you only prepare your marks up until the semester mark value. If you want to add the exam and the final marks, you must make sure that those columns are hidden from the students. The reason being, we will never ever provide the final mark in ClickUp, because ClickUp is not linked to the financial part of PeopleSoft. So ClickUp doesn't know, did the student pay his account or not, right? So they can't make grades, final grades available if the students didn't pay. Okay, so that's why the final grades are only available on the PeopleSoft system. Okay, so what does the bottom part now means if I create a weighted column again? Just want to show you. What does these categories to select, what does that mean? So let's suppose you had 5 assignments and only 3 of the assignments will count towards your semester mark, the top 3, or you have 10 tests and only 5 will count, or the highest one of the 10 will count towards the marks. Then you will be able to use these categories. So you will select a category. Let's see, there's test. Right, I can put that there. And there you have the options whether you want to drop the grades. So do you want to drop 2 grades, or the highest grade, or the lowest grade? So drop the 2 highest grades if you put in the number there, or drop the 2 lowest grades if you put the number in there. Right, that's how you will read this part. Or use only the lowest value to calculate, or only use the highest value to calculate. So it will look at all the columns that are associated with that category, and will then, based on your selection there, do the calculation for you. So this can be quite handy. We don't have the functionality in ClickUp at the moment to do a multiplication or a division or something like that, right? So for example, earlier one of you asked about if the students, for example, had to evaluate each other's group input, né? And you now want to use that as a factor to work out their group presentation mark, that student's group presentation mark, on how well they work together in the group. Then you will have to download to Excel, do that calculation there, and upload back into ClickUp. Unfortunately, there is at the moment not yet that functionality. We might get a calculator in a newer version of ClickUp from a student point of view. So once you created that weighted column, there's my semester mark. You have a grading criteria option there below the heading of that semester mark. If you click on that, you will be able to see how you will be evaluated. So those percentages that you loaded when you create that grade weighted column, if you, for example, use the category 1 and you now dropped some of the grades, that information will also reflect here for the students. So it's total transparency. They can immediately see which grades will be dropped and which will calculate towards their final grade. If the students submitted an assignment or something and they had a sick note, they didn't do that, and you want to exempt them from it, will the calculation then work out the mark without that exempt mark? Yes, it will.